Formula One hasn't raced for 5 weeks. 5 weeks, Bahrain cancelled, Jeddah cancelled. The war in the Middle East wiped 2 dates off the calendar and left the championship frozen just when it was getting interesting. And now, finally, we arrive in Miami. The championship resumes with multiple regulation changes and we'll finally see cars on track. Everything's perfect, but it turns out there's a 90% chance of rain on Sunday. And not just any rain, but a thunderstorm. And if those storms are as strong as forecasted, the Miami Grand Prix might not take place. And this isn't a rumor or an exaggeration on my part, it's the FIA regulations. And in this video, I'm going to explain exactly why the weather in Florida could once again put the Formula One World Championship on hold. Stay until the end, as I'll also explain what this means for the championship. Because there's a team, and one driver in particular, for whom this 5-week break was terrible, and things could get even worse if this weekend's race is cancelled. How is it possible for rain to cancel a Grand Prix? Formula One races in the rain all the time. Rain tires, safety car, and red flag if the situation gets out of control. However, there are 2 conditions that are non-negotiable. And in Miami, both are at risk. The first one is not an FIA rule. The American Lightning Safety Protocol requires stopping any outdoor event if lightning is detected within a 13-kilometer radius. It doesn't matter if it's an American football game, a concert, or a Formula One Grand Prix. If the rain stops, there is a minimum waiting period of 30 minutes before racing can resume. However, if another lightning strike occurs, the event is paused again and the timer resets to 0. On the other hand, there's the second rule, which is from the FIA. At all times during a session, whether it's practice, qualifying, or the race, there must be a medical helicopter ready to take off. Because if a driver has a serious accident and needs urgent surgery, that helicopter is the difference between getting there in time or simply not making it. And if there's a thunderstorm strong enough that the helicopter can't fly, the session can't start. Or if it has already started, it has to be stopped. So we have 2 different reasons to cancel the race, and both are triggered by the same reason, the forecast of rain on Sunday. Also, the helicopter rule isn't something made up at random. It actually has a name, a date, and a very specific tragedy behind it. October 5th, 2024, Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka. There was a lot of rain, 0 visibility, and terrible conditions. Jules Bianchi lost control of his car and crashed into a recovery vehicle that was on the track.
Impacto fue catastrófico.
And at that moment, the medical helicopter couldn't operate, exactly because of the weather conditions that had made the race difficult from the start. Because of that, Bianchi was taken to the hospital by ambulance. The FIA later confirmed that the transport time and the type of transportation affected his prognosis upon arrival. Jules Bianchi passed away 9 months later in July 2015. He never regained consciousness after that crash. However, that accident changed many things in Formula One: the yellow flag procedures, the protocols for cranes on the track, and an untouchable rule. If the helicopter can't fly, there is no race. And for me, that's the right thing, because even though there are rules that sometimes take away from the show, the safety of the drivers comes first. And right now, that's the situation just a few days before the Miami Grand Prix. But before we continue, if you're enjoying the video, subscribe. Subscribe. How real is that risk? The forecasts at the time I'm recording this mention a 90% chance of rain at the start of Sunday's race. And not just a drizzle, but thunderstorms. The kind of storms that in Florida can arrive, pour heavily for an hour, and then leave as if nothing happened. Or on the other hand, they can stay all day. It's completely unpredictable. The good thing is that this forecast is only for Sunday, so the sessions on Friday and Saturday shouldn't be affected. That's something relevant considering it's a sprint weekend. Also, another positive thing is that Formula One has some leeway. If there's a red flag, they can wait. If the race starts late, they can adjust. And if at least 2 laps are run behind the safety car, technically there's a race. Although clearly, nobody wants to see a repeat of what happened in Spain in 2021. But if the helicopter can't fly at any point on Sunday, there's nothing that can be done. In fact, this isn't the first time it's happened. There have been sessions canceled for exactly that reason, so this isn't an imaginary scenario. It's something the FIA has enforced before, and will enforce again if necessary. And what makes this situation particularly striking is the context. We've already gone 5 weeks without Formula 1. Bahrain was the first to be cancelled, then Jeddah, so the championship has been on hold since Japan. And now that we've finally arrived in Miami, with all the anticipation around it, with regulation changes, and with the teams ready with updates, the weather is telling us not so fast. So now let's see how this whole situation impacts the championship. Let's discuss the championship, because there's something about it I find very interesting. Before Miami, the standings are as follows. Kimi Antonelli leads with 72 points, George Russell is second with 63, Charles Leclerc is third with 49, Lewis Hamilton is fourth with 41, and Lando Norris is fifth with 25 points. Antonelli was coming in with momentum. 2 consecutive victories, China and Japan. A driver only 19 years old leading this championship in a way that no one saw coming. But that momentum was stopped by the 5-week break, and if there's something any athlete knows, it's that momentum is important. The mental rhythm, the confidence with the car, the communication with the team, all of that has a kind of momentum that can be lost, as we've already seen in other cases. However, there's something more important. Mercedes arrived at the start of the season with the best car on the grid. They dominated in Australia, China, and Japan. And the 2 races that were cancelled, Bahrain and Jeddah, weren't just races where Mercedes came in as the favorite, but they were 2 perfect opportunities for Mercedes to pull even further ahead of the other teams. And at the same time, Ferrari and McLaren had 5 more weeks to develop their car. 5 more weeks in the simulator, in the wind tunnel, and preparing upgrades and updates for Miami.
Así que el parón que parecía perjudicar a todos.
Which FIA regulation change? In Miami, there are regulation changes that add another layer of uncertainty. The FIA made 2 main changes. The first was to reduce the energy regeneration limit in qualifying, while the second limited the famous super clipping, which is basically when the car slows down involuntarily to recharge the battery. That's exactly what the drivers had been criticizing since the start of the season. In theory, these changes should level the playing field and reduce the advantage. In reality, no one knows exactly to what extent it will affect Mercedes. Russell is only 9 points behind. Ferrari is coming in with promising updates. McLaren for their part hasn't fully woken up, but in Japan we saw what they're capable of with Piastri's result. The championship was taking shape, and if Miami is cancelled too, Mercedes would lose a 3rd race where they had an advantage. So for their part, the rest of the teams would have even more time to keep closing the gap. What will happen on Sunday? I have no idea. Miami could wake up to clear skies or to a torrential downpour. For now, it looks like it's going to be more of the latter than the former. We'll see what happens. And if you like this video, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.